Hi, my name is Elisa Minkin. I am a general pediatrician and I'm chair of the JOMA Preventative Health Committee. And I'm super excited and honored to be here today with Chana Radcliffe. Hi.
Hi.
So, Chana Radcliffe is a psychologist in private practice in Toronto, Canada, counseling parents, couples, and individuals. She is the author of the HarperCollins publication Raise Your Kids Without Raising Your Voice and The Fear Fix, as well as 7 books on Jewish family life and emotional well-being, including her newest book, Better Behavior Now. Chana is a weekly columnist for Family First section of the internationally distributed Mishpacha magazine. In conjunction with Jewish workshops, she has produced numerous webinar classes on parenting, marriage, anxiety, and stress management, and she currently runs a live, ongoing weekly family webinar series called The Family Circle. Chana provides daily tools for parenting, family life, and emotional well-being on her Facebook and Instagram parenting pages, as well as through her daily parenting post email list. So I am so excited to have you here. You've been doing this for a long time.
Yes. About 45 years, yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That gives you so much experience and also as a parent and right and grandparent too.
Yes.
So, there's young people, right, who are wet behind the ears who are telling us parenting tips, but somebody who has your experience, it's so valuable. So I thank you so much for doing this with me.
Mhm.
And I thought a lot about this talk, and I don't want it to be, the kind of parenting tips that when you're really stressed out, you just can't do. And then you start telling yourself, I'm not good, I can't do this. And then you look on Instagram and everybody seems to be doing it perfectly, and you're not. So I want this to be about what you call your inner compassionate parent. I love that term so much. Um, and one line that I want to just quote because I want to make sure we get it in there: lowering the bar to something more humane and more reasonable allows us to breathe easier as parenting. And that was from your raise your kids without raising your voice that I just went through. It's amazing. So I really want to start with talking about where we are right now as parents, right? Where we are right now is a really challenging time. And it's not necessarily the time to start an in-depth parenting process. I mean, I think that there's different times for different things. And this is the time I think where we have to, like I said, listen to our inner compassionate parenting voice, which I would love to hear you talk about. And then maybe we can go through some very basic parenting ideas or methods just so people, because you don't stop parenting during the pandemic, right? You
Mhm.
still have to. So I would love to start talking about what this inner compassionate parent is.
Okay, well, we walk around being supervised by the voice in our head, right? So if we do something like ask a kid to, or whatever, tell the kids to clean up or stop fighting or whatever they do, and they're not listening, and we feel frustrated and we ask them again and they're not listening, and then we start screaming our head off at them. Our inner critic, after the kids walk off, whatever, crying or whatever they're doing, might say to us something like, "Oh, you're such a useless parent," and it might start beating us up. Um, Now, inner critics are parts of the organization of our inner personality. We have many different parts, and very often they are there to help. They're trying to tell us do better. But it's kind of like bad parenting technique where you yell at a kid, if you don't do your homework, you're going to fail. You're going to be a loser. No, you're never going to get anywhere. We're trying to help, but that kind of stuff isn't helpful. And our inner critic, I don't know where it learns its tricks, sometimes
Mhm.
from our own parents or from society at large, but whatever, it's not compassionate. Now, the compassionate inner parent is another part of us that is really like a better parent, right? It's more encouraging, more supportive, more empathetic, more
Mhm.
understanding. It's just like, well, honey, you were frustrated. It's hard when the kids don't listen. And you know what? Just let's try it again this afternoon when they don't listen again. And let's just do one thing differently. Like maybe just ask them once. If they don't comply, maybe just walk away. You'll pick your battles elsewhere. Like
Mhm.
let's take care of you. The inner parent is very nice to us. It sees us as a good person who's trying to do things rather than as a horrible person. And with the support of the inner compassionate parent, we'll do a much better job at parenting, actually, both because we're experiencing the comfort and guidance of loving inner support, but also because we are training ourselves to have that voice be our dominant voice, and it will roll over to our children as well. Like we act a lot like there's a big emergency going on at home, and we alarm ourselves. So like if the kids don't listen right away, it's like, what is the sky going to fall? Like if they leave their plate on the table, what horrible thing is going to happen? I mean, and a few minutes later, we can try calling them back to take it off. If we bring things down, you know, to their more realistic importance in the scheme of things, you know. Yeah. So the inner compassionate parent is our pleasant guiding support inside of ourselves.
Right. And that's really important. And I think that I want to keep going back to what we're telling ourselves, how we're dealing with our own emotions, because you cannot help your child unless you're in a good place. Right. And I may
Yes,
say it more than once.
the worst place we're in, the more irritable, harsh,
Mhm.
short-tempered, and negative we're going to be with our loved ones.
Right. Which is of course natural and normal. And we're not saying here that you're going to be a perfectly fine parent no matter what you do, as long as you tell yourself you're good. This isn't about feel good, just whatever you do is fine. But this is the starting point. It's not the ending point, right? But it's the starting point.
It's the point of beginning, even to make a positive change. We
Hmm.
need that encouragement rather than that beating us up. Beating us up doesn't help. It doesn't help us. It doesn't help our kids to make a positive change. So we may want to change, as you're saying. We may want to improve our technique, but we need support and encouragement to do that, not being hammered over the head and just go to bed depressed about it. You know. Yeah.
Right. And I'm wondering if that voice that our kids hear is the externalizing of our inner voice.
Well, the one we hear is often the internalizing of our own parents' voices.
Right.
You know. So yeah.
Right. And I want to say that, it's fine to say I might need to get a little help to be a better parent for myself, right? If you see that you are struggling with your own issues, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting some help for yourself
Wonderful. It's the
first.
best in the world to get
Right.
help for. Yeah.
Right. Right. I mean, it's not only is it not selfish, but if you have only one inner voice and it's a negative one, then work on it to, get somebody help. It's not just something that you can do on your own necessarily. So everything's on a spectrum. I think right now we're just pushed to the more, stressed out, anxious end. And that's why this is really for everybody. Nobody, I think, is in the same place they were in 2019.
Absolutely.
But it's
Yeah.
2021 today. I'm very excited.
Yes. Yes. I hope it bodes well for us.
Yes, they say the
So
thing for Rosh Hashanah, may the curses of the old year leave and the blessings of the new year
yeah.
come
Hmm.
in.
Yeah.
Um, so the other thing that I wanted to say or to go through, I also love this line that you say, parents can measure the success as parents only by their own behaviors, not by what happens to their children. So I think one of the problems with our inner voice is saying, oh, they're doing this, they're going to be their whole life, and therefore I have failed as a parent.
Yes. The When I say we judge ourselves, what I mean is, or what it's basically what we have control over too. Children are born with a set of genes. Some of them have the easygoing,
Mhm.
happy genes and cooperative genes. Others really give us a run for our money with their, you know, um, they may have outright defiant tendencies that they can't help. It's not their fault, just born that way with whatever syndromes they have, or they're just more sensitive, or who knows what. Okay, so, and then we interact with those genes, but the child has free will and many other experiences besides us. There's the other parent, there's the sibling, the birth order, the educational experience, the social experience, all sorts of things. We're just a part of that picture, though, an important part, but not the only thing going on. And when a child has difficulties, it's not helpful to think that, you caused them. Now, if you are truly, you know, abusive to your child, you know that you need to improve your techniques. You're not helping the kid. But even, I mean, heaven forbid that you're, doing something harmful. Even then, different children have different kinds of resilience. In one family, one kid weathers it, and goes on to become just fine and healthy and happy and productive, and the other one is crushed by it. It's never always you. Just don't take
Right.
credit and don't take blame. Don't take credit either. It's not like, oh, your kid is so well behaved and so smart and so competent. That's not because of you either. Okay.
Right.
The only thing that's because of you is just what you're doing in your life, what you're saying, your small part. We can do it kind of better or worse. And that's what we should look at. We should look at improving ourselves and praying, for our children that they do,
Right.
that they have good lives.
Right. It's really true. And also, even if some of it is coming from you, say you're that parent who really was brought up, by your parents who were not supportive, and you don't have the resources. You shouldn't think,
Yeah,
okay, well, I am not capable of being the best parent my child can have. You are the best parent your child can have by definition, and they can build resilience as you build your strength, right? Like if you work on yourself and you don't always succeed, but they see you struggling, that's not the best model for your children ever.
I know, and making that overt is helpful too. It's
Mm-hmm.
like when kids see that you're improving, you're changing. Sometimes they're even suspicious of it. What are you doing? You say like, well, actually, I'm taking a course, and I learned that I'm trying out something to see if that works better here because I don't like the way it's going between us. And or I've spoken to my therapist, and I've learned this or that, or I've been reading and thinking and feeling, and I've decided that this or that. Given these models of growth, that I'm not stuck, I'm not rigid. Well, this is not just who I am and what I am. I'm in motion. And that's a very hopeful message for children
Right.
and making it very overt. Yeah.
Right. And it's for children to be able to see that we're a work in progress because they're a work in progress.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's so helpful. I love your idea of emotional coaching. Um, but again, to be able to coach your children through their emotions means you have to handle your own emotions. And this is what I see a lot as a pediatrician. Parents who are anxious
Yeah.
and they cannot tolerate their children's negative emotions. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that because I deal with it every day.
Mm-hmm. Our children's pain can both trigger and frighten us. So, in triggering us, it means it reminds us of our own vulnerability, our own childhood helplessness, our own past pain. For example, if a parent struggled with making friends all through her life, and the only thing she really wanted for her kids is that this kid should have a social life, and then it turns out that the child also has trouble making friends. This can really disturb the parent beyond what the issue is, So the understanding that our children may trigger a strong emotional responsiveness. If it's a strong response, we're going to want to deal with it. I say on a scale of 0 to 10, if you're at a 5 or more, it's probably pulling up old stuff. And the best thing you can do for your child is to sit down with yourself privately and quietly and feel the feelings that you're feeling and try and remember where they're coming from and what the names of those feelings are, and just hold your own hand and acknowledge, to yourself, yeah, that was hard. And just hold yourself through it. If you have other good techniques, which there are many, like even a simple technique like journaling, writing it out, or some people know the tapping techniques like EFT, or
Hmm.
there's many, many ways you can help yourself release those feelings. But even just naming or remembering yourself as a little kid and talking to your inner child about like that was hard, you felt lonely, and support yourself. So you get that out of the way. When you support your emotions properly, there's always a sunny side up ending. Like if you really hold the pain, it clears the pain out, and then all of the true and the good and the optimistic stuff comes in. Okay, so it's like okay, friends aren't our thing, but you know what? That gives us time to write, to create, to draw, to play piano, to advance our. We don't have to have a million friends. Like that clarity can come when the pain is removed. Um, and the whatever the parent is anxious about, maybe the child's future, if we tend to be worriers or something, we generate a lot of really negative pictures. There are so many skills that we can use to retrain our brain so that we're generating positive pictures and good pictures and we're feeling more relaxed. But um, the main thing is to take that signal of discomfort that we feel, realize it's not about the child, it's about what's going on inside here,
Hmm.
and to work with ourselves. In my book, The Fear Fix, which is about how we help children with anxiety and their worries and their fears and their phobias and their traumas, how we help them with that. Most parents who read that book tell me, hey, I don't care about my kid. That really helped me.
Right.
The techniques in there are really good for us. There's so many. If we have time, we can talk, if you want to go into more deeply to some of the things that a parent can do to ease his or her own anxiety.
Hmm. I think that's going to be outside the scope of this. I do have, by the way, several podcasts on
Oh,
anxiety.
great, great.
Yeah, and related to parenting and parenting, in challenging times. So this is just part of actually a series.
Oh,
So, but I do want to say that from the perspective of the child, that if the parent doesn't handle their own anxiety, they're likely to transmit it to the child.
through a lot of different ways. Like there's the
Right.
model, because we teach children what to be angry about by
Hmm.
getting angry at things. Like we get angry about spilled milk, or the mess in the room, or the whatever we get angry about
Hmm.
teaches children what constitutes an emergency.
Hmm.
um, you know, and whatever we get frightened about also teaches children, this world is like just not a good place to be. If we have a
Hmm.
lot of fears, it's like danger lurking around every corner. We can certainly um, darken our children's lives by sharing all of our unresolved fears and anxiety. It's not a safe place, this planet, but we have to learn to walk that narrow bridge in a
Right.
confident way. In a confident way, like there are dangers, but we have to negotiate that feeling inside ourselves that right now in this moment everything's cool. Okay, like we're at our table, we're in our house, we're alive and we're well right now, and keep bringing it down to um, one day at a time kind of thing, without that projection, that constant projection of what could be, what might be, what will be, always negative, what disaster, will befall us. So no, that's not the gift we want to pass on. Plus, our children experience our actual energetic vibration. Like if somebody's heart is beating in a dysregulated
Hmm.
way because of their anxiety, which is something that, let's say, the Heart Math Institute tracks the different patterns that our heart produces when we're calm versus when we're upset, angry, anxious, whatever, and how those patterns are put out into the air and picked up by other people's hearts and causes them to actually resonate or entrain with that same pattern. So again, anything we do to calm our own nerves is a gift to our children. Anything, as we calm ourselves down, the actual vibration in our house literally is
Hmm.
calmed down.
Right. Now, I see this a lot as a pediatrician when the kids are crying
Mhm.
before their shots, right?
Yes.
And they're young. They don't even know what a shot. They're babies, but they're picking up on the
Huh.
anxiety of the
Yeah.
parent already.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't want to put pressure on parents. Oh my gosh, now that's one more thing I have to add to my list. I have to, not be anxious. But I think that it's just important to talk about it. And I think also the concept in our society in general, right? There's a concept of safetyism that, it's our job to protect our children. They should not have any discomfort. And that is so wrong in terms of how they will be later in life. It's so much better for them to learn to handle discomfort and for you to help them through the discomfort, right? Without your fear that something bad will happen to them, right? Like I have children who have a fear of getting shots and the parent keeps talking to them and they have anticipatory anxiety. They just have to get it over with. And they're actually prolonging, right? The discomfort with talking to the child, but really it's because they're having trouble tolerating the discomfort of their own, which is, it is difficult. It's difficult, but I think the point I'm
I
trying
think
to
your
get
point is
across.
really that
Hmm.
pain by itself is not such a big danger. Okay, it's like
Hmm.
physical pain or emotional pain. It's like, yeah, when that kid teased you, that really hurt, and that is the actual core of emotional coaching, to be able
Hmm.
to tolerate your child's pain. And when you're able to name the pain, like, well, that must have really hurt your feelings. I wouldn't like that if that happened to me. Like that really hurts. It does, and it has happened to me, so I know what you're talking about. Where the kid can see, oh, it happened to you and you survived, or you're naming that feeling and it's not like something that we cannot even speak about because it's so horrible. You're able to talk about it. You're able to say, well, you must have been embarrassed. Like, wow, just the fact that you can say that means that it's not so bad. Okay. Because we hide from things that are unspeakable. They're that horrible. So when the parent is able to just name single words like, that hurts, that might have felt lonely, might have felt angry, sad, um, you know, uh, humiliated, embarrassed, whatever. It's just these words that we all feel. We have moments. So those words are in the vocabulary because those are feelings that every person has. So just to be able to say it and just to nod and just sit there and not make it better. Okay, so like I know you felt really lonely, but don't worry, you'll meet somebody nice another day. Like no, it's just like that. That really hurts when it's nobody to play with and they don't invite you. That really hurts. And the trick is to end the conversation there, like to put a period, pause,
Not
and to
but.
show, yeah, well, the but undoes it. Okay. So
Right.
like if you put, that really hurts, but I'm afraid to talk about that. Why don't we talk about the good news that some other time somebody else will play with you? You know, like that shows again that the pain cannot be tolerated. Whereas we just go like, yeah, that really hurts. And we're acting like, okay, that really hurts. You know, what's for lunch now? You know what I mean? Like
Here's
that's,
a cookie. Here's a
we're
cookie.
yeah, well,
To start on emotional eating.
I don't mean that. I don't mean that. I mean, like, let's go on to the next thing. You know, like,
No, I meant, but like if the
yeah,
parent wants to dull the pain right away by giving them food,
yeah. Why don't we give you, you know, whatever. Well,
because you want them to feel
be
better right now, but being able to tolerate the pain, even if
able
it's
to
for a
sit
few
there,
minutes.
just, you know, maybe an arm around a shoulder, or just sit in the presence of
Mm.
a person, eye contact, nod your head, and just go, yeah, I know. That really wasn't fun. That hurts. Or that made you sad. And just say it. That is one of the most amazing gifts that a parent can give a child, because later on, you know, like when people go to therapy, the therapist will often ask, so who was there for you when you went through a difficult time? Like, who could you turn to? And the most typical answer is nobody, because, you know, the child keeps all the pain inside, because if they go to the parent just says things like, well, what did you do? Like, how did you cause that? Did you go and, you know, did you try to make friends? Like, whatever. The parent doesn't get the pain. If you, so people learn quite young not to confide their pain, because it's not going to go anywhere. Um, and it is hard for us parents to tolerate our children's pain, but it gets easier with practice, just like everything gets easier with practice. And so we just want that period pause, like, um, right, they didn't invite you to play, and that was really hard. That was unpleasant. That was made you feel really bad.
I
Nod.
wonder, because I'm thinking back to pandemic parenting, where the parent may really not have the emotional resources right now, and if it's you have the ideal, right, the right thing to say to your child at the right moment, and then what if you don't have the resources? I think, is it okay to say, um, I'm going to be honest with you right now. I'm also having a hard time, and verbalize it yourself. So you're saying to your kid, this is where I'm right now. Is that bad? Because what if you can't? What if you
You're right.
can't coach them through? What if you feel like, I'm reading about coaching and I don't have it in me right now?
No, I wouldn't like
You don't
to
want to
say
dump
that.
your adult problems on your kids. I'm just thinking this out
No,
loud.
no, I'd rather say to a kid something like, if you don't feel you have, I just want to say, let me start my.
It is difficult, but it is
I'm
real.
going to do it. If you, first of all, in my book, Raise Your Kids Without Raising Your Voice,
Mm,
in one of the appendixes, there is a little feeling list. Now, basically, there are 5 feelings. So if a parent could just remember the 5 feelings, there's happy, sad, mad, scared, and confused. Okay. And then under each column there, I've given about 20 different shades of those feelings.
mm.
But basically, you don't need to be an emotional genius here. You could just, is the kid looking happy? No. Okay. So then he's sad, mad, scared or confused. So does he look confused? No, he looks miserable. So what's miserable? That's under the sad category. Okay, fine. That must have been sad. Okay. Just memorize the 4 words. Okay.
Mm,
Or if you can't do that, it's okay. Just listen. Do
right,
you know how important listening is? Even
right.
just nod your head. Just go like, "Mhm."
Thank you.
That by itself, amazing, you know?
Right,
So
because
just be there, your presence. And it's going to be, obviously passionate presence, because you are concerned, you don't know what to say. But you don't need to know what to say this week. Okay. As over the weeks and the months and whatever that come, you can read that page in my book, or in any other book or whatever, and pick up a couple of tips. But if you just nod and listen, keep your mouth closed, you'll do far better than keeping your mouth open. And in general, there's a couple of techniques like that can help us through pandemic parenting, because less is more in parenting.
mm,
So to calm our nerves, for example, if we find we're getting really irritated in the day because the kids never go away, they're always being sent home from, to quarantine, they're under our feet all the time, we're cracking up from just, having no private time, no alone time, no downtime, always, always, always with the kids. Um, so we want to get into the habit of speaking less often. And when we do speak, to help our own nervous system and theirs by speaking slowly and in a quieter voice. Okay. So if you make it your rule simply that I don't speak loud, you're going to keep your nervous system calmer. You speak slowly. It's kind of the opposite of what we would do if the house was on fire. If the house was on fire, we start screaming and flapping our arms and running around. And that causes all the adrenaline, the upset, and it also leads to more behavioral problems in children. So when we're flapping around like that because the mess is getting to us, okay, even if we spoke about the mess, because they're there all the time, they're not cleaning up and they're not listening, whatever. If we speak about it, first of all, if we don't speak about it, it's probably that's one level there. But if we speak about it, it's like, guys, put some toys away now. Okay, that will help us actually manage our sense of overwhelm, and it will lead to more cooperation from them, because the flustered, chaotic thing does not produce a well-behaved child. It just makes them crazier too. And then there's that cycle, so
Yeah, I
speak
want to
less.
I want to talk a little bit about that cycle. I know you have a 10 times versus a 2 times,
Well,
and I
the
really
10,
want to do that. But before I
the 10,
get to that, I just want to make sure we mention that I'm just going to keep bringing it down to we're doing the best we can. So for a parent who loses it, that's a chance for you to say out loud, right? And to model for your kids, well, this time, I did lose it, and I'm going to try harder for next time, so that you don't feel like, okay, well, I've blown it. Getting on to the next method, right?
I think the ability to apologize is very important, and to also do a little something towards moving yourself forward. So it's not like Rome is not built in a day. Like tomorrow,
Right.
I'm going to have 10 new techniques under my belt. But that's why I'm saying that if you didn't do anything else, let's say you read my book, there's a lot of strategies in my book, but you don't have the head for it. You're very busy making 20 million meals a day and trying to keep the kids, safe and sane and whatever, So you don't need to read the book. I would just say speak less. And when you speak quietly and slowly. That's it, okay? Because speaking less will cover a lot of things, meaning you won't be able to comment on everything that's going wrong. That's a very big technique right there. Like, don't talk about, the socks on the floor and the dish that wasn't washed and the struggle that's going on between two kids. Like, the less you say, actually, the better. So don't say so much, If you have to make a choice ever between intervening, but you don't know what to do exactly, and just letting a misbehavior slide for a bit, you're going to be better off letting it slide for a bit. Okay. I'm not saying give up on parenting, but take that time to read a parenting book slowly in your own time, put it in the washroom or by your bed or something and read a page. Next year, you'll have a few techniques under your belt if you need them, This year, it's not an emergency. Most things that happen in parenting are not emergencies, but your good mood, your ability to just, I don't know, take care of yourself emotionally, like you're saying, that will help a lot. The kids are going crazy. Sit down and have a cup of tea. Watch them from a distance. Don't get involved in every little thing. Okay, like the inspector isn't coming to your house to see, like, is everything running smoothly? Like, just if you're not screaming, you're doing a great job. If you did scream, announce that you're sorry and resolve to stand back a little bit. That's all. Just stay out of it until you feel you have a few more strategies under your belt.
Right. And I'm sorry, we all do screams. We didn't get to the 10 times.
Well, I was going to say about the 10 times
Okay.
that
I want to make sure.
we walk ourselves into hysteria. Okay. Like I would say, I don't know if I've got a shorter fuse than most people, but I would say at 3 times we're starting to get very irritable. So would you please get off the computer now? And the kid says, yeah, in a minute, I'm just, finishing this. You come back 5 minutes later. I told you to get off now. It's time to get off. It's your brother's turn, or it's time for bed, or whatever, time to do your homework, whatever it is, get off of that now. Okay, I'm almost there. I'm shutting it down now. And then, come back the 3rd time. Are you still on it? I told you 10 minutes ago to get off of it. Now, the first time we asked nicely, right? By the 3rd time, we're already showing signs of irritability, and we're feeling disrespected, helpless, annoyed, like a bunch of negative feelings. Now, if we keep going, this is how we end up screaming at kids to get out of the bed in the morning. Good morning, honey, time to get up. Come back the next time. Come on, honey, it's time to go. We have to get moving now. Next time, like, I said you have to get up, get going. And the next time, are you still there? And this is what I call the 10 times we're getting. And what happens is we're training children to ignore all of our pleasant voices and to respond only when we're a banshee woman, like completely hysterical and smoke is coming out of our ears. So they're waiting for that in a certain way, and then they'll get up, or get off the computer. And it's causing a lot of stress to go through our system. So that the opposite of that, as you know, is the 2 times rule. Because by the second time, most of us are still holding it pretty together, So he said, good morning, honey. It's time to get up, and come back a few minutes later. Honey, it's time to get up right now. And you might do different things there, like just stand there and make sure it happens, because you're just standing there, like stand over the kid, is he getting up, or you might stick in some sort of, it depends on what your parenting tool bag looks like. But if you have resources kind of ready to roll, so it would be like, depending on the age of the child, if I have to come back a third time, sweetheart, you will be getting up on the third time, but then you won't have the treat that we're all having for lunch today. Just telling you, So if you have things like that ready to roll, that can empower you, But just standing there, making sure that your request is fulfilled is really powerful, even with a silent mouth, okay? Because it's just so communicative to be there, to say, I am serious about this. I spoke, so listen to me. So.
Right. And it really takes an enormous amount of work to make that 2 times rule work for more, difficult children, So that's where, you may have to put that on the back burner, but it's good to know. I think it's important to know that negative attention reinforces negative behaviors, to be most simplistic. So
there's a lot of detail behind that simplistic statement.
And that's where your book comes in, and it's great. People should read it, and it's mercifully short. So
that's the book, The Better Behavior Now, which talks about wiring and how to use techniques that are actually much easier on you and on the child to gain compliance. That 2 times rule and like those consequence kind of things can only constitute the most minute part of parenting. Your everyday getting them to comply is going to be built on a different structure completely. And Better Behavior Now is the name of that book. And it tells you how to do that in the easiest, most positive and pleasant way possible. It's just a matter of changing your lens on what you're trying to do there. So, but again, it does involve that's a 1-hour read or a 2-hour read. If you can only read one book, you should start with that one and then just let it kind of filter in and experiment with that gently and just see how it works. Like a lot of people go like, wow, like they read it, in 2 days, and then they try it. And a lot of people go like, wow, I didn't know it could be that easy, and that's what we're after, especially in pandemic parenting. We don't want to be struggling. We haven't got time to struggle.
Exactly. And I think people just don't understand. It's a natural thing to do, to say to your child, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And what happens when you say that to them?
Well, for some reason, all of our natural techniques work in the opposite direction,
right?
That we want to. I don't know why.
So unfair.
I know.
It's wrong.
Yeah.
But why does it do that? What does it do that? Why? Because it comes so naturally to say, like, for example, I had a child who was walking on their toes as more of a behavior, not as an indicator of anything else. And the parent was spending all day going, get back on your feet, get back on your feet. You're walking on your toes, you're walking on your toes. And
it wouldn't be so bad if the parent would keep talking, because like there is a whole neurological basis for that. That's explained in very simple metaphoric language in the book of the wires in the brain. But basically our brain watches us. And when we do something, it makes a little map inside of itself, a neural pathway, which I'm calling a wire, just, and then I talk about playing piano. The brain watches you try to play the song, makes a little map, okay? And it's rough. At first, you play it again, adds another wire. Every time you play it, adds another wire. When you got a certain number of wires, the electricity can zip along that quickly, and now you're fluent in that behavior, okay? In order for the child to learn anything, the child has to do the correct behavior, what I call in the book the target behavior or the appropriate behavior, because the brain watches the child. The child's own brain makes that learning wire inside the child's own brain by watching the child do that behavior. When we tell a child that a behavior needs to be done and the child hasn't done it, the child's brain does not contain that behavioral pattern. So when we tell the child, don't hit your brother, that's good information, but the child hasn't learned anything. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
so what I'm saying here is when there's two ways to get the wiring done. One is the first wire has to be installed by the child doing the appropriate behavior, doing it, action and words. Okay. But more wires can be added by the parent giving the brain food, which is some form of stimulation, any form of stimulation. Ring a bell, clap your hands, say some words, smile, get in the child's face, scream. All of that is interesting to the brain. Like, wow, whatever you do after the child has done a behavior will add wires to that circuit. So if you're talking when the child has just completed an inappropriate behavior, like walking on toes or jabbing his brother or who knows what, and you're talking then, or he's talking with food in his mouth, and you tell him, please close your mouth and finish chewing before you talk. Okay. What you've just done is you've added wires to the talk and eat with your mouth open. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is so counter to our instincts. But what I was saying before is if you keep talking, okay, you did add, I say if you make a comment, you're adding 50 wires actually to what the child just did, his one wire. But you can counterbalance that by adding 1,150 more wires on the new circuit, the appropriate circuit, by now attending to what the child is doing correctly. Because very often, once the child's done the correct thing, we just stop talking. Now the child is eating, closed his mouth, and we carry on with whatever we're doing. Okay. But if you would keep talking to the child, now that his mouth is closed, you can add 50 wires for talking to him. So you say like, excellent. Wow, you're eating with your mouth closed now. That's perfect. Okay. That's 50 wires for eating with your mouth closed. Okay. And then if you label that behavior, it kind of organizes the circuits in the brain. So what do you call somebody who eats with your mouth closed? Well-mannered. What a well-mannered young man you are. Okay. So that's 100 wires, 150 you've done. And if you, at the beginning, when you're trying to train a new behavior, throw in something that's truly rewarding to the brain, then you can get 1,000 wires. You say like, you know what, since you're eating so nicely, I think we should all have some extra ice cream for dessert today. What do you think, guys? And they go, whoa, yes, okay. That would for sure add 1,000 new wires to that particular circuit. Eat with your mouth closed. Pleasant all around, but you just have to know that once the child has started doing the correct behavior, keep talking. Okay, don't stop. He's doing the right thing. So, and that's the easiest way to install the new circuitry. That is to have your child learn new appropriate behaviors and use them. Okay. Of course, it's a little bit more detailed. Read the book. It's not that much more complicated than what I've said, but it gives you 20 million examples, so you can really apply it.
Right. And I think it's also like that idea of putting it in your back pocket, that right now, if you're very, very stressed, the hardest thing can be to be those positive statements. When you're just thinking, okay, I'm waiting for something to get my attention. It's the negative behavior that gets your attention. That's why kids who act out get the most attention, but they're getting negative attention.
Well, let me then, you're pointing out something true, because I'm thinking, when I said speak less, I actually had in mind speak less about what's going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But let me modify that and speak more about what's going right, and if you don't want to speak at all, just walk around the house smiling, but put a smile on your face. That's actually a form of biofeedback that raises your own positive mood, because your brain thinks you're happy if you smile, even if you're not. So it starts to send you the happy chemistry. So because your brain is watching you, it says like, wow, it looks like she's happy. Give her some, good chemistry for that. So it's not just a matter of not talking about things that go wrong, but you are certainly helping yourself if you follow the rule. Just don't say so much. Okay. So for maybe this year, the kid does eat with his mouth open. Don't worry. There's 20 years you've got to raise your kid, 20 years. So that, that gives you some time. You'll work on it next year when they're back in school all day and you can focus and, whatever. So it's not an emergency. You're going to only pick the really dangerous or problematic behaviors to target them with correction. And everything else, you'll reinforce appropriate behaviors. You might just, there's a lot of details I don't want to get into. The point is, look for some appropriate things, and you can talk as much as you want about that.
And ignore the things that are bad, and you're not doing anything bad by ignoring them. You're not letting them slide. You're not addressing them. You're actually by neglecting them, not reinforcing.
Well, if you're neglecting them, you're not most parents are constantly adding wires to the wrong circuit. So you will say anything. You've just saved 50 wires for that circuit.
You're saving them by not doing something. I want to point that out because
Yeah.
when you say, oh my gosh, I have to start saying, oh, that's good eating, you're eating with your mouth closed. That means a distracted, stressed parent has to notice something that they're not really capable possibly of noticing at this point in time. And that's okay. They're not going to get married still
Well,
chewing with
let's
their mouth
say,
open, or you hope they're
yeah,
not.
but the parent will notice something like, let's say, two kids are
Mhm.
sitting at the table. Maybe the parent is distracted, is certainly not going to notice the details of how the kid is
Mhm.
eating. But as one is, beating the other one up at the table, elbowing him, taking his food or whatever he's doing, fighting,
Mhm.
the parent will notice that. So if
Mhm.
you just follow this little tip, once you've corrected the behavior, which adds 50 wires to the annoy your brother wire,
Mhm.
um, keep talking because now he's stopped annoying the brother and now
Right.
talk about what he's doing right. Okay.
Right. You can't ignore
So,
that. Right. You can't ignore
right.
somebody getting hurt
So
or hurting others.
if you have to say something, just keep talking after the kid starts doing the right thing and comment on the right behavior. So would you please put your hands on the table and eat your food and, keep them to yourself, leave your brother alone. And kid does it. That's it. Excellent. You're eating and minding your own business. Terrific. Little angels at my table. Love you all. Mwah. Just
And you
keep
could just
talking.
separate them, by the way. You don't have to go on and on. You hit your brother, don't hit your brother, be nice to your brother. Just separate them, right? Without so much talking in terms of not adding to those negative wires.
In terms of not adding the negative wires, yes.
Mhm.
You don't then have the opportunity to actually teach the appropriate behavior,
Right,
like to wipe in, but you don't need it all the time. We have
right,
20 years. Take your time.
right. Exactly. And that's okay. I mean, there's different times to parenting, and this is a really, really challenging time. I also, by the way, I never heard it before, but I love your 50-50 rule.
Yeah, the 50-50 rule is, kids have to feel loved, right? So if they only get positive attention when they're doing something right, oddly enough, they don't feel loved because it's a very conditional type of love. It's always about, oh, you got a good mark, good for you. Oh, you cleaned up your room, how beautiful. Like these are nice things to say, but we call them conditional positive attention because the kid is getting this nice feedback from you because of something that she's doing, right? So if you want to give about half of your positive attention that way, and the other half so the kid feels like you really do love them for no reason other than the
Mhm.
kid exists and belongs to you. So it's like, your cheery good morning, look how cute you guys are, like before anything's gone wrong, try and catch that moment, or you just humming in the kitchen actually gives, like, you're not even talking to them, you're just humming to yourself. And humming, by the way, calms your nervous system. It's a really good thing. Find some tunes that make you feel good and just hum. Okay. It's really, it'll calm you and elevate your mood at the same time. So, you're not even talking to them, but that will count as positive, unconditional attention because just being in your space feels good. So we want to find all these low stress techniques and like, don't even deal with the kids. Just, laugh on the phone when you're talking to a friend, that's also good for your kids. Make a few jokes with your spouse. That's good for the kids who happen to be nearby. These all count as unconditional positive, and unconditional positive is, hey, I got you guys the ice cream tonight for no reason other than I know you like ice cream. Okay, it's not a special occasion. You don't deserve it. It's just like, I know you like it. Here's a treat for you. Or I made your favorite meal, meatballs and spaghetti, or here we go, and just all of this stuff is so important to giving the child a basic sense of value and of being loved. And then we add that, so at least half of, now we tend to do this when kids are babies because they're so adorable. Like, oh, we're talking to the kid. He hasn't done anything to deserve anything other than he's a cute baby. So we have to remember to do that a little bit when the kids are, 8 years old and 12 years old and 17 years old, and, to our spouses as well. A lot of unconditional, just smiling at people, and also the listening, mouth closed. Just that's also a form of unconditional positive attention.
Right. And this is a perfect place to end. So I'm really so grateful for all these tips and all this compassion that you bring to your parenting help. It really is so, so valuable. And I'll just mention the name of those two books that we talked about, which is Raising Your
Mm-hmm.
Kids Without Raising Your Voice. Actually, there's also The Fear Factor, which I didn't read yet. Um,
Yeah,
and
terrific.
Better Behavior Now is your newest book. Um, and if people haven't heard of you yet, where can they find you? Because I think it's also great that you do, ongoing parenting classes for people.
One way to stay in touch with me would be to go to my site, dailyparentingpost.com, and just
Mhm.
sign up, which means you'll get a little parenting tip of these kinds, okay? Just kind of how to make life easier for yourself and your whole family 4 times a week, 7 o'clock in the morning. So Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Get a
Mm.
little tip to start your day that will calm your nerves. So that's dailyparentingpost.com. That goes to your email. And my website, well, on dailyparentingpost.com, actually on the shopping page there's a lot of different kinds of information. I've put out the anxiety stuff for you and for your kids, and the family stuff. If people do want to learn things, watch a webinar, listen to something, if they want to, it's all there. My books are there too. But again, this is also on Instagram. And on Instagram, I have like the IGTV things. I have a few, stay calm, anxiety reducing things, how to deal with your fear and stuff. On IGTV, I've put out a little short parenting course, actually. That's like each section is 2 minutes long. So if you want something a little bit light on the head, but it was for the pandemic. I did it right at the beginning because I think, wow,
Wow.
everybody's at home with their kids, and it's going to be hard. So I did
Oh,
a
yeah.
crash course there. Like each little segment of that is like 2 to 5 minutes or something, and there might be 10 or 14 parts of it that you can kind of scroll through at your leisure. So on Instagram, it's just Sarah Chana Radcliffe, at Sarah Chana Radcliffe. Facebook, I'm around, in the
You are.
books.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And
Yeah.
thank you
I
so,
also
so much.
just one other thing. If
No.
anybody actually support, like to really join me, I do a weekly
Mm.
webinar live for Jewish workshops, the family circle, where we discuss everything. Okay, so
Oh,
if somebody has time for that, your personal questions get answered, and
wow.
we're just learning like forever. And they can watch that thing; it's recorded, so it's 24/7 when you want to.
No, where is that?
But that's at jewishworkshops.com. No, you would write to jewishworkshops@jewishworkshops.com. And you'll see that on my Daily Parenting Post shopping page. It's called the Family Circle. And we talk
Mm.
about everything, your personal stress, your anxiety, your kids, your marriage. We're starting actually next week, in 2 weeks, a course on dealing with teenagers. Like we do courses within courses. So like if anybody has older kids and is
Wow.
struggling, join up, you can just join for a month. You can join for a lifetime, whatever. Like I'm there.
Amazing.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you so, so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I really appreciate this.